this is primarily just based on hunting deer and the methods and um, tools that you'll be using. So it's not really like any specific style. I kind of went into some depths of previous videos of bow hunting and gun hunting, and referred you to the state laws for specifics on what you can use, because they can say, oh yeah, you can bow hunt, or you can gun hunt, or you can you can bow hunt, you can shotgun hunt, or you can rifle hunt, but they generally give you very specific types, or limitations that you can use, restrictions on those different tools. So I call it a tool because if you're hunting and this job is really a tool. But we're going to go on to rut phases now. Rut phases are something that most beginners do use. If about within the first to second year, you start to figure out rut phases. You notice that it's not just deer just literally walking around. They're going certain places with intention. Okay, rut phases. There's 3 different phases. There is the pre-phase where bucks start to rub their antlers on trees. They have velvet all year long. They're growing velvet on their antlers. Their antlers are growing, and then they have velvet on them to protect them. Under that velvet is blood supply. It's kind of like veins or whatever, like you have in your skin, and it takes blood up to the antlers to keep them growing. Now, at about September, those antlers start to, they topped out where they're going to grow, and they're usually not going to grow anymore, so the bucks start rubbing the velvet off on the trees. So often if you see deer in the early part of the hunting season, you'll see like velvet hanging off of their, it looks like trash or something like that, hanging off of their antlers. They may have not rubbed them all the way off, but they rub on trees. This creates scrapes. This creates rubs. This creates rubs on the tree. It takes off the bark. Usually, they will stay within a quarter mile of where they're bedding at. So this is why people see a lot of people go in the woods and they see rubs and they say, "Oh, there's a deer in this area." Yes, he is, but he could be in a quarter-mile radius anywhere in there. Usually you can look for brush or heavy brush, and they'll usually be in that area. But if you saw his rub, chances are he knows you're there by now. So that's why you need to always be in hunting mode. If you're going to scout, you need to be in hunting mode. You need to be scent covered and all of that. So because if you stumble upon something and you didn't know it was there, you've just put your scent in that area. Now that deer knows that you're going to be there. So he's going to expect you to be there. So like I said, pre-rut phase, the bucks are rubbing their antlers on trees. You can use that. You can use on the base of the trees. You can see that sign. They will start to scrape a little bit later on. They'll scrape it, paw at the ground, and then they'll urinate on that to let other bucks know that this is their territory. This is where they are. You're on safe ground, and he's claiming this, and he's claiming all the does in this area. So they really want to mark their territory, just like a dog does. You see that, you can generally expect that there's deer in the area, there's bucks in the area, and that they will generally come back to that on every other day. Some people think it's every day. It's not always the case. Every other day they'll renew it, and that's in the early seasons, usually till about October, or October, maybe early November. They will keep renewing that to make sure that deer know that they're in the area. Then there is the second phase, which is where the does come into estrus. This is after the second Lateran equinox, which means that we just had our fall equinox. We just had our fall equinox, and that's what turns summer into fall. Okay, so there's another another equinox, which is the another moon, which comes in late October to early November. This is why the rut actually moves. People say, "Oh, the rut is going to be, the first week of November this week is going to be around, and usually it's around November the 9th here in the Midwest. It's around November the 9th, November the 7th, somewhere around there, and it can move to later." It can move to later and be like the second week of November, but it just depends on the moon phase. Now, some guys do hunt by that, and the does come into estrus, but they don't always do it at the same time every year. So that's why it's in your interest to follow the moon phase if you want to do that. So when they come into estrus, it's a free for all. The does come into estrus. The bucks are on their feet 24/7, and yes, 24/7, not just during the day and not just during the night. When there's a full moon, you can forget it. They are up all night and they're trying to mate. They're trying to get those does mated. So yes, you're not allowed to hunt during that time, but the deer are out there moving around. So during that estrus phase, the does cycle just like a woman. Every 30 days, they come into cycle and they need to be mated. And if they're not, they come back into cycle another 30 days again. So and people think that it's only doing October and November. That's not the case. Those will come into cycle all year round, every 30 days until they are mated. So this is why you see fawns in the middle of summer. They weren't born right there in February and then don't grow at all until summer. They were in cycle and they were mated later in the spring. It happens. If they're not mated, they come into season 30 days again. So it's just that most does come into season at that time. So sometimes you can see there will be deer. There will be a lot of movement when all the does are in cycle all together. You will see a lot of movement from the bucks, a lot of movement from the does. The does are looking for food for the winter time. The bucks are looking for does. So the principle on hunting the rut, which is the second part of the second phase, the principle on hunting the rut is to look for the does. And to look for the does, you need to find the food source. So this is where you find corn. This is where you talk to your farmers and say, hey, when are you going to plow the fields? Once they plow the fields, it is the first 3 days is the most important time. After they plow that field, there is corn, there is feed everywhere on that ground because the combines don't get all of the feed. So the first 3 days after that field is plowed is very, very, very important. Usually they hit it the night after it's plowed. The deer will hit the fields the night after it's plowed. And you want to be in that tree stand as early as possible. It should be dark as early as possible because they're going to come off of that field and start heading to their bedding areas. And that's how you hunt that area. So the bucks know that the does are looking for food. So they're going to follow those areas where the does are, and they're going to follow those trails. If you're on that trail, you will get a deer. Albeit a doe or a buck, you will get a deer. So I mean, mark my word on that one. That is as sure as sugar. It has worked every single year. I have used that plan. That's my secret to you. Now, there's also I can keep going on for the rut phase. The second. I mean, it's unbelievable. That's where you can shoot most of your large deer that are very weary. They don't want to move around at all. But when it comes to the rut phase, when does are in estrus, they are on their feet nonstop. So now the second phase, the third phase, which is the late season phase. Now at this point, most of the does have been mated. Okay. Now this is 30 days later. This is usually about December or so. Mid-December. The snow is on the ground. the bucks are worn out because they've been chasing does. That they made it as much as they can. Now they need to feed. Now they need to feed as much as they can. The crops have been harvested already, so now you're looking. Now the bucks are looking for a food source for themselves to get fattened up for the winter. For the second part of it, anyways, the first part in September they were getting fatted up for the rut. Now they're getting fatted up for the winter, which is coming into January. So they will. You can hunt those standing corn patches if you have a farmer that leaves a little bit of corn standing for the late season. Some of them will do that. They'll work with you and to get the numbers of deer under control, so that they'll leave some standing. You hunt that standing corn, hunt that standing bean field. You hunt that because bucks are going to be on it. The does will be too, but the bucks are definitely going to be on it. And that late rut phase, you can use some sense to get the younger bucks. They will still be checking does. It's kind of like an old man and a young man. An old man, oh yeah, he's gonna find his few does, and he's gonna find his few, and then he's tired out. Okay, he's like, that's enough. I'm not done for that. I'm done with that. So then the young one is going to be like, oh yeah, I can keep going. And if you have a nice little perfume or something like that, you will get him coming there. Maybe that pun was intended, but but you will get him there. So that's the same principle for deer hunting. If you late season, you can get a lot of young bucks that are moving around. And when I say young, I mean like 2 years, 3 years old or younger. They will come into that scent, that attract, and they will think that some does. They will be looking for those last few does, the ones that they got fought off from. From the bigger bucks, they didn't get to mate, so they still have a little vigor about them. So they'll be looking around. So you can get some younger does and younger bucks in the late rut season. But that's going to cover that right now on buck hunting in rut phases. That's a rough gauge. I can go on and on and on and on and on about that. And so I see that we covered the doe and estrus phases. They come in every 30 days. You can use that. You want to be out there every single day at that time when the does are in estrus. You want to be out there every single day, and you want to be out there as long as you can. You will see numerous amounts of deer, lots of movement, and like I said, usually it begins that first week of November. This year I haven't checked yet. I think it's supposed to be like the 12th, November the 12th. It's supposed to be the Latin equinox, the second Latin equinox. Is when it happens, and you want to hunt really hard the first 3 days before that, up until the first 3 days after it. So that's about that 6 day period. You want to hunt as long as you can, sunrise to sunset. That it will turn out in your favor. All right. So next thing we're going to be moving on to in the next video is feeding patterns. Okay, we've talked a little bit about that in rut phases, but we'll go into the deep discussion about that, so you can understand exactly how to work with the feeding patterns of deer. Okay, if there's something you guys want to discuss or you think I missed, please just go ahead and comment it in the comments below. I will check that out. We're going to keep this going. We have lots of information to keep covering. Like I said, this is for beginners, but it is going to be beneficial to everyone. And I feel like these are like the secrets that I didn't get, but I learned over the years while hunting. So I'm giving that all to you right now. Keep it going. JTO. Check us out on Facebook, Journey to the Outdoors.